What's up, Las Vegas? I am sitting here with my name twin, but also
good start.
There's no proper way to do an introduction for a podcast because sometimes there's an awkward silence. Sometimes you're like, okay, how do I transition to the next question? So I try to make it different every time. You know, we can start off with some laughs. I'm here with Jacob Orth. He is the creator of Jacob's Life in Vegas and also the host of the Money Growth Project. Both popular YouTube accounts. Jacob has 16 million views on his YouTube channel and just celebrated his 7-year anniversary. So a man of success. And from the video I watched before this, an OG in the Vegas creator space. So Jacob, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it, Jake.
Dude, 7 years. Does it feel like 7 years though?
That's a good question. I never thought whether it feels like 7 years really. I don't know. In some of my videos recently, people told me I look younger than I do 7 years ago. So maybe it doesn't feel like 7 years. I think it's because I got rid of the facial hair. People say like, bro, how'd you get younger? I was like, I guess getting rid of the facial hair did it. So yeah, sometimes I'll stop and think about it and I'm like, man, it has been a while. But yeah, because I've seen a lot change since then, since I first started.
I'm assuming so. I've kind of seen a lot change. I've only been in it for a little over a year. And some of the people that I just had on recently, I just had on Julian Romero of the Vegas Confessions podcast. And obviously I've had Scott and some of these other content creators. Yeah. To me, I've been doing this a year, but it feels like a day. It just flies by so fast. I'm like, everyone's like, you've recorded 135 episodes already. And like, it's just everyday activity to me. Like, I just like communicating with people. You just enjoy Vegas. So I'm sure it doesn't seem like work for the most part.
Sometimes it does.
On post-production.
Yeah, so yeah, especially post-production. There are some, and even getting ready for videos sometimes, depending on how research intensive it is, sometimes I'll be getting into like nitty-gritty details of stuff, and I'm just like, how am I going to take all this information and try to like condense it down to something that's easily digestible for people and just, you know, give it to them. Like, all right, here's what you need to know. There you go. So yeah, sometimes that is the research side of it can be challenging, and yeah, sometimes the post-production side of it.
Yeah, when I was browsing through your YouTube channel, it seemed like you had two kind of basic models. You had the live stream where you get thousands of people just kind of walking the strip with you, and they get to live vicariously through you. But then you have like Listicles and like kind of different intersections of Vegas. Which one started first? Was it the live streams or the more Vegas curated content?
Well, no, not the live streams, because that's a newer addition to YouTube. So when I first started, yeah, there was no mobile live streaming, at least none that I was aware of 7 years ago. So no, when I first started, I really just started making videos off of things that I thought other people would want to know. That was it. It was just all intuition. I didn't know search engine optimization. I didn't know titling, tagging, you know, I didn't know how to write descriptions. I didn't know LSI words and all that kind of stuff for SEO. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so I just started talking about like, okay, well, when I was getting ready to move here, what did I want to know? I wanted to know about the cost of living. I wanted to know about, you know, good places to live. But even like as far as the travel side of it, when I was getting ready to start my channel, I was shocked at the fact that there was no one here locally who was regularly making video content about Las Vegas on YouTube. And I remember thinking, because I was trying to find that when I was getting ready to move here, and I remember thinking, like, how can there be like no one doing this? Like, even with all the tourist stuff there's to do in Vegas, how come there's not a single local showing different things to do, giving travel tips? And I just like gaping hole in the marketplace is what I noticed. Because I mean, I found more stuff about moving to Hawaii than I did about moving to Las Vegas. And so I just started talking about stuff off my own intuition, and some videos hit and did really well, some didn't, but that was really how I just got going on the whole thing.
You found a perfect product market fit. So before we go on, tell me a little bit of Jacob's life before Vegas.
Well, before Vegas, it was college. I mean, I came here truly. I finished my final exam. So let's do this. So I was in graduate school at the time, and
where at?
San Jose State. So this is in California, in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, and with a few weeks left in the semester, I took a visit here, and I was like, I'm going to see if I can find a job here, find a place to live. I came here the week after Thanksgiving because it was like dirt cheap to come here. I stayed at, it used to be before the link. Imperial
Palace. Yeah.
I stayed in Imperial Palace for like, I don't know, $12 a night or $15 a night or something dirt cheap, like right after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving to New Year's is the slowest time here, I found out. Stayed there and was looking for jobs, mostly in the nightlife realm, because that's what I did as like part-time job when I was in college, like in the off season from football and that kind of thing. So like, okay, I could transition to that here in Las Vegas. Grad school, I was mentally on autopilot for most of graduate school.
What were you going to grad school for?
It was for business. So I did my undergraduate degree in business, and then I did my graduate degree also in business. But I wasn't even planning to go to grad school initially. But it was because I was playing football. I was a walk-on. I transferred from community college as a walk-on because I had been injured several years at community college. So I had to walk on there. And after doing well, my coach told me, he said, hey, he said, if you can graduate early with your undergraduate degree, he said, we can put you on scholarship for graduate school and pay for a whole year. Well, it ended up being a semester of graduate school that I got paid for. So I really had to expedite the undergraduate process. I took 27 courses in 2 years.
Oh
my last 2 years in undergrad. My last winter session, I took 4 classes. It was nuts. And so I finished my undergrad because I initially was just going to finish undergrad like during the fall, my last season of football. So I graduated early in that spring. And I started graduate school like 5 days after my undergrad graduation, so I didn't even really have like a break.
Yeah, you didn't get to party and live it up and celebrate. No champagne for Jacob.
Yeah, I got none of that. There are only 2 graduate programs the whole university that started in the summer, and mine was one of them. So did grad school in the summer, grad school in the fall during football. Football's done, had grad school in the spring. I don't think I had any summer classes that summer. And then the fall was when I was finishing up. So the last few weeks of the semester, because I didn't really feel like staying in California. I didn't really feel like staying in the Bay Area. I didn't feel like I was, it's ironic I say this, like a tech person. Now I make a lot of my living is online.
On tech, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't think I was much of a tech person. I didn't, because they push obviously a lot of the tech industry there when you're in Silicon Valley. It was tech, and the second biggest one was retail. I remember Target coming to speak to us a couple of times when I was in school there. But I just didn't really feel like staying there. I wanted to go somewhere else. And I felt like if it was like kind of like not necessarily now or never, but I just knew the longer I stayed there, the harder it was going to be to move somewhere else. The more I stayed there, the more time and effort I put into something there, the longer it was going to take me to, decide to jump and go do something else. So I came here with a few weeks left in the semester, spent 1 week here, went around trying to find interviews at different places, ended up finding a place that would hire me. So I got a job at one of the gentlemen's clubs here. I was interviewing nightclubs and gentlemen's clubs, and ended up getting hired at a gentlemen's club. And I spent the next 2 days getting my TAM card, my health card, my sheriff's card, doing that all around town. I went back, flew back to the Bay Area, and I had one final to finish. Finished that final, and then that night, I had already had all my stuff packed from my apartment in my car, parked by the school for the final. And after the final, I didn't even go back to my apartment. I went to my parents' place in the Central Valley, stayed the night there, woke up the next day, left about 11 a.m., and drove about 8 hours here to Las Vegas.
Ooh, sweet neon desert.
Yeah, when I was driving in here, it was nighttime. So, when you're coming in after you get through Prim, and you're coming in and you're getting by like the M Resort, and that's when you can really see the lights start to show up. And I remember driving in and being like, man, like, this is my new life. Like, this is it. Like, I am in another state. I don't really know anybody here. No family here. No real, like, big prior connections or anything. I'm just showing up.
That's kind of like the ethos of Vegas. It's this land of opportunity, and where you can just set off and build your own life, but you don't know what's going to happen in this barren wasteland. You kind of just got to live it out and network, because that's the foundation of Vegas. It's built on relationships and not as much as education as some people would like.
Right. Well, yeah, Vegas is unique in that regard where, that's one of the reasons public education, I say, is not real big here, because for so long now, you could just graduate high school and go work valet and make 6 figures, that kind of thing. You'd be a cocktail waitress or whatever. It's not, the incentive isn't quite there. So Vegas is unique in that regard, because lots of jobs here that are generally really low paying in other places, you can make a good amount of money doing here.
We used to have this common cliche phrase at Omnia nightclub that we're making doctor money pouring juice, changing ice. Like, why would you ever leave this kind of thing? But the thing with working on the Strip, though, which is pretty unspoken, is the harmful effects on your health when you're working nights and just being in the environments of drinking and partying, and you kind of become disassociated to the real world in a sense.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility depending on how far off the deep end some people go. I mean, you and I both worked in nightlife, so we've both seen people who people who every day they get off work, they drink. And on their weekend, you come back to work on whatever your Monday is, and they're talking about like how much they were drinking over the weekend. I'm like, pretty sure your liver can only take so much of that. Like, liver's strong, but like, that's not good. But people who, you'd see them work their 8-hour shift and they're still hanging out for like 2-3 hours after work drinking. I'm like, you just spent, 10, 11 hours of your day just here. And then, whatever time it took you to get ready, it takes you to get home. Like, your whole day was just you worked and you drank and that was all you did, So I think for some people who get into that, or people who get their tips that night and then before they even get home, they stop at a casino and they're gambling their tips away. So some people do go down that road and get into that. And I think it's obviously very common, but you do get your handful that wind up working in it, doing well, and they wind up, going into something after that. So I think a lot of it just depends, though. But even outside of nightlife, like I remember going to one of the steakhouses here and talking to the manager, and he said he hasn't had to hire a busboy in I think it was over 20 years. So his busters and like his staff members, a lot of these guys were like in their 50s, but they've been making great money for decades there. It's like, why are they going to go anywhere else?
One of the most pristine jobs that you could get in Vegas, which isn't talked about a lot, is being the A-list banquet server for a casino. And those who are A-list in casinos make mid 6 figures, but they've been there 20 years at a time, because you could work 2 or 3 banquets a day, making, hundreds of dollars every single time. But you have to make sure that you lock that position away. And that's one of the pitfalls of Vegas, is that you can go and make a lot of money, but you become very complacent and content where you are, and you don't want to innovate because you're comfortable making $250,000 a year serving drinks or changing out food chafers or pouring coffee or whatever simplistic task it is.
I mean, for some people it does. It can get to a point where, like you said earlier, you lose touch with reality, because I remember talking to a guy like the first year I lived here, and he used to just do security at a nightclub, and he was talking about being here during the real estate boom. And he said, he'd just be working as a security guard, and some guy be like, hey, bro, can my girlfriend go dance up in the cage up there? I'd be like, $300. Guy just give him $300 like nothing. Or I remember talking to one guy who was, his job was, what he did was a personal trainer, but he was 3 nights a week working nightclub security, making like $800 a night as not even a host, selling bottle packages and guest lists and all that kind of stuff, just security. So, guy was making $2,400 a week normally. Guys pulling in a 6-figure income, working 3 nights a week. Like, this is what, 15 years ago or more?
And that was peak nightclub and day club and tip positions. Now the IRS has come in a little bit, and they have tip compliance and all these other
a lot of
things. Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, all these places paying out taxi drivers and that kind of thing, realizing how much money there is in that. But but for some people it does. They get kind of a warped view of how much work they're doing for how much they can make. And then some people, they never adjust their lifestyle. They never plan ahead. And then they wind up, in their 40s or whatever. And they just, like, what happened to all the money you were making, the hundreds of thousands you were making all those years? Like, what'd you do with it? So, yeah. There's a reason that story exists in Vegas.
Yeah, it's a tale to be told, but it needs to be told. But so you found yourself at a gentleman's club working there. You just moved out here. How long until you realized that you wanted to do something else, or you realized that there was this massive hole of your product market of Vegas content creation?
So let's see. Because I was here about 1.5 years before I started the channel. And I thought about a little bit before then. I had 2 people on YouTube I'd watched for a while that were more in the realm of business channels. And I had consultations with both of them before, so I had some rapport with them. And they both encouraged me to start a channel. And at first I didn't want to. I was very much against the idea. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm like, I saw the opening. I saw the opportunity. I didn't exactly know how I was going to make money from it. Then, because I think back then you had to apply to be in the ad revenue or the partner revenue program, whatever they called it then. So I didn't know. I just knew that there was an opportunity. So I was like, okay, well, if it doesn't work, I'm like, whatever. Not a big deal. So I decided just to jump in. I had a little bit of encouragement. I decided to jump in, start doing it. I was nervous. My first 2 videos don't even show my face. So, and then from there, I just kept going. I remember getting a couple likes on some videos and some subscribers and doing a video when I got my first 100 subscribers. I was like, yeah, they like me. You're all excited for yourself to be doing well. And it just kept snowballing from there is really what happened. So plus, I also knew that nightlife, hospitality, these industries are fun to work in. I'm I was I don't know how long I'm going to work in this. I didn't have an exact idea. I didn't think I was going to be, doing it for really long term. So I'm going to have to do something else. And I just saw an opportunity there with YouTube, with content creation. And I'm okay, well, I'm going to do this and see how it goes.
Were you a regular YouTube consumer before you dove into the space?
Yeah, I was. Even back in San Jose, I was. So I was a regular YouTube consumer.
Yeah, it's funny. Before I started the podcast, I used to hate. I was a hater for YouTube content creators and producers. To me, it felt like a cop out. It was me being closed minded towards the space.
Damn, dude.
I know, but now I'm in the opposite position.
How was it a cop out? I got to hear this.
To me, it was always oh, these people are selling. They're selling their opinions online in a sense for attention. But I was why don't you go get a real job? Even though I was already working in a nightclub, which a lot of times isn't considered a real job. It was just me being very close-minded. But I don't think I understood what the power of having your own messaging is through whatever channel that you do it through. I was generally a Twitter guy for a long time, and you have a large Twitter community as well. But to me, it never transferred over to YouTube. It just seemed like kind of like a circus to me in a sense. It was just very chaotic, and you see some of the YouTubers that is kind of like a cry for attention sometimes, and being the slave to an algorithm, which we all are now at the end of the day. But now I truly understand owning your own voice and being able to channel that to the community that resonates you through whatever niche or market you're finding yourself in.
Yeah.
And it just takes a while. It took me a little while, but I do give all you guys props because within a year of me starting this podcast, I didn't know what kind of pillars that needed to be built on. Probably similar to you. I was just hey, I just like to talk to people in Vegas. So let's just launch it and kind of figure it out. And that's kind of the same mission that you found yourself in, even though this is seven years ago where YouTube was not as integrated into society as it is today.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. And I've noticed that one of the things I've noticed over the years is really, particularly here in Las Vegas, in the last year or so many more people making YouTube content regularly. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. Because I would check my video rankings every so often on YouTube. And I used to just completely dominate the rankings for certain search terms, for living in Las Vegas and moving to Las Vegas. For living in Las Vegas, I had 16 of the top 20 videos on YouTube.
Jesus.
And then I had 12 of the top 20 for moving to Las Vegas. Now that's not the case because there's so many more people who either make content about living and moving here regularly, or people who have just, had other channels before they came here and they just made a video about moving to Vegas, or they live here now, whatever the case is. So now the competition is so much more for those kinds of keywords, and just the amount of people making content has gotten so much bigger here. So we're back in the beginning on the channel after, I think it was my first year, asking my subscribers one time, if you know other people in Las Vegas who have a YouTube channel about anything, I was can you put it in the comments section? Because I felt like there was hardly anyone else doing it. And at the time, there really weren't that many. And now there's so many I can't even keep track.
So what is your creative process when it comes to creating Vegas content, as there is so many entrants now into the space? Obviously, you have a giant command on the live stream, at least walking down the Strip and the Arts District in downtown. What is the creative process to the more curated videos?
Yeah, so it's a combination of things. So sometimes I'll have maybe just a video idea on my own of something that I think is interesting. Oftentimes I'll get something for my subscribers, where if I get enough people requesting or enough comments about something, I'll make it into a video. That's what I did with a video. I think it's been about almost 2 years ago now. It was called 5 Things Destroying Las Vegas, because I had so many people in comments like that were upset about like the same handful of things here in Las Vegas was resort fees or surcharges or taxes or hidden fees or whatever the case was. I was like, I'm just gonna make a video about these things, and the video like did great because I just saw that there was so much demand for it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a video on this. So that's a big part of it. Other times, things that I think are interesting or stuff that just maybe a general topic. So I could give something that's like tips for travelers or first time or Vegas virgins or whatever the case is. I try to mix it up with stuff that's like that for more general audiences versus something that comes from my audience or stuff that's on my own ideas. So I try not to just rely too heavily on one source.
Smart. You have to understand your audience, and Vegas is always ever evolving. I mean, the buildings are structurally intact and they're going to stay there unless they tear something down. Mm-hmm. But the businesses within the casinos are always changing, going out of business. They're being rebranded. And now with tourists, it seems like there's just kind of an explosion for people to come out here. And the internet is like a rabid fans for Vegas content. It's crazy. They want to know every menu change, every CEO who's been canned, like what potential new toys are coming to the city.
It never ceases to amaze me the amount of people, that don't live here that are obsessed with this place. I mean, people who, fly from the East Coast here every quarter, every other month, or someone who flies from Texas every other month here. People in LA, I mean, for some of them to come every weekend, every other weekend is fairly common because it's, 3-4 hour drive, depending on what part you're coming from of Southern California. So, with people in Southern California, I guess 3 to 5 hours, depending on where. But anywho, the amount of people in other places like the East Coast or down south, or even international, people in Canada, people in London who they come once, twice a year. And when they're not here, they're following everything that they can find about Vegas, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, YouTube, any live stream, like they're on every stream wanting to see what's going on here. And to me, I mean, it's just, that's one of the things that makes this place so unique and so special. And I think it can be hard sometimes when you live here because like it's right there. I see this all the time, but even I catch myself sometimes, like I'll walk the strip or walk place and I'm just like, even I'm still amazed at what has been built and what can be built. And how much this place has changed over the years, even before I was even alive. So yeah, it's definitely unique in that regard. And yeah, I think part of it too is just the fact that also there's just more and more people on YouTube and other social media platforms as well. Because now, I mean, now you have Gen Z who like the oldest Gen Z are now over 21. So, the millennials are now to a point where they're all over 21. They're going to be, I don't know if they're the biggest generation now in terms of numbers.
They're going to be here pretty soon.
I think so, because baby boomers have been the biggest for a while. And Gen Z was Generation Y, millennials, was the second biggest. So I think millennials are going to be the biggest here soon. So, the generation of the millennials who are more familiar with the internet growing up, and now you have Gen Z who knew what the internet was coming out of the womb. They got their first smartphone in the hospital.
That's why they all have social anxiety. They're attached to the screen. It's all emotionless.
Yeah. So, I mean, now you've got, back-to-back generations that are very familiar with technology and using the internet, and, they don't watch like cable TV and that kind of thing. So yeah, just the volume of people that are on social media now that use it just regularly is growing and going to continue to grow.
Yeah. And Vegas needs to be able to tap into the creator economy, YouTube content creators, podcasters, now TikTokers as well. Yeah. If it really wants to be the entertainment capital of the world, which is eventually moving into the experience capital of the world, because that's all we know is internet. It needs to have this like technological overlay on top of it where it needs to really hone in on the internet communities, right? Like I'm sure you have fans who come down here that just specifically want to see you or end up on the live stream or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you just like, you add on, you're an addition to their experience, but also part of the reason why they come down here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get people sometimes. I'll go live, and they'll be like, "Dang it!" Like I was on the strip the other day. I was on the strip, and someone commented like, "Dang, like we were on the strip yesterday, hoping to see you. Now we're on Fremont Street, like we missed you." So sometimes that'll happen. They'll see me, and they'll want to come say hi and that kind of thing. But no, you do make a good point about Las Vegas. And that's one of the things I've noticed in recent years is they're getting better at adapting and being more accepting of content creators and getting free advertising and free marketing. Some places still are not, but that's something that, when I was first starting, like places were super strict about that. And, some of the casinos are still pretty strict about recording in there. Some of them, like if you just don't record the table games, it's not a big deal, but they're I think they're eventually going to be seeing more and more. And if it's not, now it's going to be at some point that there's a big benefit in them to letting people just basically to letting their travelers be their marketers and that kind of thing for them. So I think it's going in that direction. From my understanding, it sounds like the hard part is for some of the marketing people to convince like the very top level people in some of these organizations, because it has changed a lot just in the last 5 years. If you go back 10 years or more. So if you're talking to people who've been in the industry 30 plus years, it's obviously changed radically since they first got in. So I think, over time, you're going to see Vegas be more and more accepting of alternate ways of marketing outside of, TV and billboards and things like that. They're going to be more likely to use, what's commonly called influencer marketing.
Mm-hmm. I never understood why one of the casinos hasn't adopted content creative tools in the hotel rooms, like a podcast setup or like being able to rent out cameras or things like that. To me, it just seems like, and like you were saying, free marketing of people running around with as many cameras as possible, filming it. And it seems like most content that goes online is positive reinforcement. I know there are some people that like to critique literally every little thing, like Yelpers and YouTubers who like point out scammers or bad experiences. But for the most part, it's generally positive. So to me, it just like, I just haven't understood why that hasn't been on the forefront, but maybe it is because of the older view thinking or line of thought towards that area.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. I mean, that could certainly be a part of it, like I said. Because, I mean, even when I got here, and there was no Uber and Lyft here in Las Vegas yet. And I remember asking some people, like, you guys haven't heard of Uber? And they're like, no. And I remember thinking, well, you will. Like, and I remember when they came here, reading this article before they actually got here, how it was going to be war with the taxi companies, which it was. But, I mean, even I knew, like, you can't win that fight against technology. I mean, in Las Vegas, when they were getting ready to have Uber and Lyft come here, I remember because I signed up, I recorded the whole process, documented the whole process of how to become an Uber and Lyft driver, how to get your license. When they made it for the city of Las Vegas, you had to have a license. I think I was the fourth person to ever be issued a license.
Really?
Yeah. You had to get your city license to do it. I documented that part of it. And when they were signing us up, they said there was Las Vegas and St. Louis were the last two like big markets in the country that hadn't had Uber and Lyft fully integrated yet. But I knew that at some point they were going to, because when you have, tens of millions of people who visit here that are used to having Uber and Lyft at their fingertips, they're going to want it. Obviously, your locals are going to want it because, especially that time, forever locals who lived, outside of the tourist corridor, were frustrated with taxi service and that kind of thing. So granted, the transportation industry had a lot of influence. It's one of the reasons there's never been a monorail from the airport to the Strip because of that kind of thing. But I knew like technology was going to win that battle. So at some point it eventually did. So I think, going forward, it's, going to be one of those things for businesses where it's like, adapt or die, right?
Yep. Software really truly is eating the world. But as for somebody who's actively on the Strip and downtown at least once a week, and you have thousands upon thousands of people communicating with you regularly, are there any trends that you see on the Strip outside of software that is gaining some steam?
You mean in terms of like social media?
Social media or like new emerging markets within the Strip, or trends within ideologies or just consumer behavior?
Jeez, it's a good one.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a loaded question, but
it is a bit of a loaded question.
But for you, like when I watch your live streams, you generally have a few thousand people walking, with you or vicariously traveling with you. You're communicating with them, but then you also stop and you play with some of the things that you see there, and you engage and interact with the tourists. And I'm sure you've built a lot of relationships just because of how many times you walk inside the casinos and the security guards see you?
There's people who recognize me here and there. Oftentimes on Fremont Street or on the Strip is when it commonly happens. Sometimes it is staff members or someone just driving by in their car goes, Jacob. I'm like, the hell? I guess that person. Some people walk by, but they'll say, hi, Jacob. And they just walk right by. Like I'm like, okay, I guess that person recognizes me. Usually the one to like say hi or chat or whatever briefly, real quick. And I'm usually willing to do that. But sometimes, I get the whole spectrum of that kind of thing. So no, then with the casinos, most of them still are not big on people recording or live streaming in there. So the one that has been the most lax that I've known them to be is the Plaza downtown. Their thing is like, hey, as long as you don't record the table games, they don't really mind, that kind of thing. So, I mean, as far as like consumer behavior and that kind of thing, we're not quite out of the whole COVID situation as of the recording of this. So we haven't had, like the international travelers come back and that kind of thing. I do hear gripes about the resort fees and the paid parking and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that pans out here in the near future. But I don't know. I mean, we're not really, people ask like, is Vegas back to normal yet? And I'm like, we're pretty close, but I wouldn't say we're quite there. Mm-hmm. So I think it's maybe a little too early to tell how things may be different post all of this COVID situation.
Do you have any of the, I guess they're not even just local, but any of the Vegas content creators reach out to you to collab or live stream with you, or do you do any companion?
Yeah, that happens. I just did one. I've done several over these. Actually, way back in the beginning, myself and the Trooper 97 vlog, because we were the only two at the time who were doing Vegas content. And I think at the time I had just under 4,000 subscribers. I think he had just under 5,000, something like that. And we collabed in a video together. And then several other people have kind of come and gone since then. He and I were both still creating content to this day. And then it's really been within like the last year or so that there's been a whole lot more people that have come on and started regularly doing Vegas content. Some live here, some live out of state, and they just travel here back and forth. But yeah, my most recent collaboration was with a young lady named Norma Helly. So she has a channel here that she started a little over a year ago, and she's done very well since she first started. Pomsey, when he first moved here, he reached out to me as well to do a video together. And he and I did basically interviewed each other on each other's channels. So we've done that. We've, seen each other on live streams before. We're familiar with each other definitely. So yeah, collaborate here and there with people, for those kinds of things. So years ago, collaborations were considered to be like this huge way to boost your channel on YouTube, which I don't know if that's quite the case so much now with collaborations.
Because it's so saturated.
Well, it's just obviously the algorithm changes, right? So the whole strategy behind collaborations years ago was say, you get a channel with 800,000 subscribers, and you have a channel with 500,000 subscribers, and you collaborate on some video together. So you have, your 500,000, you do a video collaborating with this other person. You tell your audience, hey, go check out this guy's channel. So this guy puts the video of you collaborating, and then when he puts his video out, not only does his audience see it, but also this audience over here gets a huge surge to that video as well. So to help get the video even more popular, push it up, and get more recommended to more people and get more views. And that was the whole thing. It was supposed to be a reciprocal relationship. But I don't know, because in the past few years, I have not heard really that much about collaborations being like a great strategy as far as growing a channel. It's kind of like, years ago and like SEO and like link exchanges were like, you say like, hey, you link to my website, I'll link to your website, like that kind of thing. So, and the algorithm is always changing when it comes to YouTube, and, with Google owning YouTube, it's kind of a pain, but it's also good that it's like a secret for how it works, because if it was so well known, then, the biggest companies would just completely dominate. They could put all the money and all the resources they need into creating the perfect content that Google likes, and they could just outrank everybody. So it's ultimately a good thing the way they have it set up that way. But yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Fucking centralization. I'll never get the end of it. Tell me a little bit more about your live streams. They seem to be your bread and butter. It seems to be what your audience likes the most. Do you enjoy them? Are they a pain? Just tell me the insights of being the operator.
People like the live streams because they get to feel like they're obviously here, right? So that's the biggest thing. People like, and I get people sometimes who are like, I'm on the plane, like I just landed. They're like on the plane and the runway just landed. Like I'm watching your stream right now. Like you haven't got off the plane yet here in Vegas, and they're like, oh, your stream came on, so I'm watching, or whatever the case is. But I just got back from Vegas yesterday, and like and they're back in New Jersey or whatever, and they're watching again. I'm like we talked about earlier about people like absolutely being obsessed with what goes on around this place. So the live streams are fun. They definitely can be. Sometimes I'll take a day off, or even a whole weekend off, or whatever the case may be. Because lots of people want to see the Strip. They want to see Fremont Street. I will take people, though, to the Arts District, like did First Friday recently. I'll take them to, Green Valley over the district. I'll take them to downtown Summerlin. I'll just take them to certain neighborhoods sometimes and just walk around different spots. Sometimes I'll just, set up in the car and just drive around the area, let them see that. So I try not to just get completely pigeonholed into doing like the Strip and Fremont. I do try to mix it up, even though some of those other ones are not as popular as the Strip and Fremont. So the live streams are fun. The only downside is when you do those, you have to be physically present, right? So if you ever want to be gone for an extended period of time, you're kind of like, it kind of kills part of it. Yeah. Plus the live streams, I think years ago they were supposedly like really good for search engine optimization, ranking videos. But what I've noticed with live streams is they typically, once the live stream is over, like it's great for real-time engagement. And then some people catch it on replay. Then once it's over, it kind of seems to fall off pretty well in terms of, it seems to fall off pretty hard in terms of like rankings or search results.
Because they want to be in the moment with you.
I think so. But also, just even when it comes, if you were to search something on YouTube, it's not too often I get a pre-recorded, like if I want to search a certain topic, most of the videos I'm going to get that are show up in the search results are going to be something that's pre-recorded, like what we're doing right now. I don't too often see something that shows up as that was a live video that shows up like at the top of search results. Maybe certain niches or industries are different, but I just don't notice that a whole lot, at least with Vegas content. When it's live and it's in the moment, it seems to do well. Then after that, it seems to taper off pretty quick.
And what's the general goal of the live stream? Is it just to go point A to point B and see what kind of random chaotic mess the Strip is? Is it to Q&A with the live streamers?
Well, it's a mixture, because that's what happens when I'm out there. So I joke sometimes on the Strip, but especially on Fremont, I joke that like, hey, all I gotta do is show up and like the entertainment's provided for me, right? Or for us, everybody who's on the stream, because you can just walk around. Sometimes goofy shit will happen. So yeah, you are in Las Vegas, right? You're in the tourist area. Sometimes crazy stuff does happen. So I'll walk around. I'll show people what I can or whatever's going on. Lots of times they just want to feel like they're there. So they can even just get to walk and just feel like they're walking. If they can just watch me watch it through my eyes, they just want to feel like they're here. So for a lot of people, that's enough as it is, because some people, they just watch and they don't ever comment anything. I do try to answer people's questions when we're on the stream, but sometimes people get upset. They're like, you want to answer my question? And I'm like, when there's hundreds of people and comments are flying, and, also I'm trying to a lot of times like show them something I think they would like to see or watch where I'm going, or, I've had a few strange interactions, so I'm trying to like be aware of what's going on.
You definitely have to be cognizant of what's around, especially on Fremont Street with the street performers and the weird concoction of goers.
Yeah, so that's a lot of it is really just to walk and show people what's going on. It can be fun for me too, because I'm there talking, engaging with people just on the stream, but also in real life, whether they come up and they recognize me, or if I just go up and say, hey, you want to say hi to everybody on the camera? So most people are cool about it. Some people aren't, though. They don't want to be on camera at all. But that's part of the appeal to it too, is you never know what you're going to get. Some people, they're great on camera. They love it. They're happy to chat with everybody. For others, are just like, hi. And they like get away. Others don't want to say hi at all. And, I've gotten to meet people who watch me, which is pretty cool sometimes, whether they move here, they're just traveling. So, that's, I think, one of the appeals of the live stream is kind of a wild card when you're out there. So, I have done some where I'm in a room, I'll just put it live, sit there, talk and answer questions with people. And sometimes people are like, wow, you answer, like you're way better with the comments today. I'm like, yeah, 'cause I'm just sitting here looking at them. I don't have lights going off all over the place and street performers here. And this person was getting run over by a car, 20 feet away from me, or me trying to walk across the street, across construction, and try not to get hit by cars that may not see me. So yeah. So, the live streams, it's really kind of whatever goes, I guess you could say.
And what is the equipment that you use? Are you using professional camera? Are you using just a phone and a gimbal?
This bad boy right here.
Yeah.
It's Verizon with 5G.
You just hold it with your hand?
Gimbal.
Yeah.
I'll do gimbal. I used to just use like a selfie stick, but with the gimbal, obviously stabilizes it better. So gimbal works pretty well. I joke that I'm like DJI's #1 salesman of the year because I get so many people ask me like, what is that? What is that you're using? And I tell them I need to hit them up for like
you need a sponsorship, man.
Sponsorship or something from them. So, because I get so many people who ask me like, what is that? What's that device? I'm like, oh, it's a gimbal.
What's up, YouTube? We're going to take a quick 60-second break to give a shout out to the first ever sponsor of the Guest List podcast. And it is none other than Manscaped. It's June. Summer is here. Fremont Street is packed. I was out the last 3 nights till 3 a.m. It felt like old Vegas. We're getting ready to go to the day clubs. And you know, for one, as a man, we need to make sure that we are trimmed in the right areas. I'm a big fan of Manscaped. Like I said, I use the product. I'm happy that they came on to be a sponsor. But lucky for us, they just came out with a brand new product for us. And I'm going to read it off just so I don't mess up. From the legends who introduced the greatest electric ball hair trimmer ever, Manscaped is now introducing the Ultra Smooth Package, a razor and formulation kit designed for the brave men out there who like to go to the skin when they trim their balls. Your new nickname is going to be the Bald Eagle after using the Ultra Smooth Package. Here's a picture of it. Make sure you guys use the discount code, The Guest List. You're listening to The Guest List. Use the promo code, The Guest List. Very simple. You'll get 20% off and free shipping anywhere in the United States. If you're a fan of the show down here in Vegas, you know this is a must. So make sure you go to manscaped.com, use the code TheGuestList for 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you. Now let's get back to the show. And as you walk around with a gimbal, I was talking about this with another YouTuber that was on town. Do you get weird stares or awkwardness, or do people approach you just because you're literally talking into a camera as you're walking down the street?
If I'm if I'm outside of the strip and outside of Fremont, much more like strange stares. The strip, Fremont's like whatever. You know, tourists are everywhere with their phones recording, taking pictures. It's not a big deal. Plus, it's more activity there, so people I think are generally just either moving with the crowd or they're looking at other stuff. So not really looking at you. But yeah, if I'm walking around like the neighborhood, some quiet neighborhood during the daytime, and it's like just me, then yeah, that's when people look. There was one time I was in Inspirado and this lady came out of her place and she asked what I was doing. You know, people were giving her crap call like,
on the live stream?
On the live stream, she came out. I mean, she didn't come up to me. She was at her doorstep. She's an older lady. But, you know, someone's like, it's the neighborhood Karen. And they were like giving her crap. But I mean, she'd never seen me in the neighborhood. So, you know, she probably figured I didn't live there. And it's something that's not common. So, I mean, I really can't blame her that much for wanting to like, hey, dude, what are you doing here? Kind of thing. But usually most interactions are pretty good, I would say. But yeah, being around the tourist area versus outside the tourist area, yeah, way more people looking at me, wondering what I'm doing when I'm out in town.
That's funny. And doing this so consistently for 7 years, has it diluted the Vegas experience at all?
I mean, I wouldn't say so because, I mean, like I was saying, there's still times I'll look at at the strip or just something that's been built, that's been there for years, and just like it still impresses me. You know what this city's done, what this place has been able to do, and how much it's been able to grow. So I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's actually helped me learn a lot about Las Vegas too, because a lot of stuff I share is stuff that I learn with people, that I share with people, stuff that I learn. So I mean, you know, I get lots of requests for different topics, and it helps me with covering a variety of issues and a variety of things that go on here in Las Vegas. So, you know, some people prefer to be more specific in talking about, you know, food or hotels or whatever the case is. You know, it's more of their niche with their topic. I like being able to cover different things. So I think that's been helpful because, I mean, I get all kinds of questions from people about, you know, what do you think about living in North Las Vegas too? What's going on with the water level in Lake Mead? Or have you ever been to Pahrump? Or like just anything and everything, you know, when is the MSG Sphere opening? What's going on with this show? I heard a rumor about this. I'm like, dude, like there's always stuff flying and rumors and going on. Like there's always so much stuff going on. Like I do what I can to answer stuff for people. But yeah, so I try to keep up with the area, and it's helped me learn a lot about the area. So I wouldn't say it's really hurt the Vegas experience for me.
I share a similar view while I was working at Omnia. Even though I was there for 6 years, I would literally stop and just stare at the chandelier and just be like, this is a fucking crazy ass place.
Yeah, I mean,
like, how is this real?
Well, I mean, you think about it, because I mean, so let's say if you were just talking nightclubs, right? I mean, several, depending on what source you're looking at, but I mean, we have several of the best rated nightclubs in the world, like right here on a 4-mile stretch of street. Some of the best nightclubs on the planet that have ever existed. Numerous ones are right here. We have them all together. I mean, some of the best shows you can ever find, some of the best restaurants, the best suites in these hotels. I mean, it's the entertainment options, even some of the natural beauty, the scenic beauty we have here. I mean, we have so much available in such a small space. Like I can't think of too many other places that have that much available in different areas, different categories than we do right here. So I agree. When you look at some of the things, you're like, damn, this is amazing. Because when you see, and it's kind of hard to put in perspective, because even like, make the hotels here. What was it? I mean, this was a few years ago I saw, so maybe the numbers have changed, but I think it was like 15 of the 25 biggest hotels in the world in terms of how many rooms there are like right here in Las Vegas. I mean, the Las Vegas dominates in so many different areas of tourism and hospitality that, I mean, it's part of what makes it so different.
Yeah, just the sheer capacity alone is one of the main reasons why so many conventions have moved out here. I believe it's like it can hold almost upwards of 400,000 people at one time, and just tourists.
Yeah, I believe it.
So it's perfect. That's why, unfortunately, during the pandemic, the NFL draft was supposed to be out here, and that was supposed to be like the largest economic impact for Las Vegas ever. They were expecting like 600,000 people, which it was almost like double the amount of capacity we had here.
Yeah, like basically doubling the size.
People are staying at like all the budget suites around around there. People are going to stay at Sam's Town, the area that I grew up in, and
yeah, they're gonna be staying at Prim and just driving on in.
Yeah,
staying there.
But I know you've been extending your brand outwards of Vegas as well. I know on your channel it says real estate, food, travel tips, vlogs, but I did mention in the beginning that you started a new finance-based YouTube channel called Money Growth Project.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I did start that because I like doing the Vegas stuff, and some of the stuff I like doing on Vegas is stuff that's more like I'll do like videos about the economics here, the real estate, that kind of thing. So I enjoy that topic, enjoy that subject, but I can't go too deep into that on the Vegas channel because, I can cover real estate here and there on the channel, but I can't just purely focus on that or on the economics here. So some people in my audience on the Vegas channel really like to hear like my economic analysis of the area, and I do like getting into those. But if I want to dive deeper into that kind of stuff, I had to move it somewhere else and do something different with it. So it's been cool because I've interviewed people on there talking about real estate, talking about stock investing, talking about starting your own clothing store. So the interviews have been fun. I'll also just do videos if I see like an interesting article that comes my way, something I think is big, like cryptocurrency in El Salvador.
Yeah, freedom, legal tender.
Yeah. So when I saw that, like, wow, this is big. I mean, it probably wasn't huge news across the world, but like for that topic of crypto, it's big news. Mm-hmm. So I like to cover those kinds of things. And I did several videos now about like credit cards, particularly with like Navy Federal. So I mean, I enjoy covering that kind of stuff because all that is not taught in school. I mean, even coming from a guy with an undergraduate and a graduate degree in business, a lot of that stuff you are not taught. So, it's one of those things you weren't taught. So I like to talk about it, I like to discuss it on there, whether it's interviewing people or it's talking about something that happened in the news or whatever the case is. It's just something that I can teach. I have enjoyed doing that so far. It's also been kind of a different feeling to start from zero again because I haven't promoted a whole lot on my Vegas channel so far. A little bit here and there, but I'm like, it's kind of fun, but it's also a challenge. And you're like, gosh, I got this huge channel over here. I'm starting here at zero again. Like it's a kind of a weird feeling, but.
Do you feel that you shouldn't promote it on there? Do you feel like you'd get backlash from your audience because it's differing from just specifically Vegas content?
I just wouldn't do it a lot. Like a video that's talking about just like general travel tips. I mean, maybe I would do it on a video like that, but it's not really related to that content. So, but when it's a video about something like I did a video on the Money channel talking about resorts who are accepting cryptocurrency. So like that's something I put on there because it's more crypto related. I mean, it is about a Vegas casino, but it's big news in the crypto world. So I did it on that channel, but I put it on my Vegas Twitter account. So, there's crossover and that kind of thing. In the future, I'm planning to do some videos where I'll talk about something on the Vegas channel, and then it's similar enough that I can say, hey, if you guys want more, check out this video, this channel here. But yeah, I'm not just going to start blasting my Vegas channel with something new. I'm not going to do that not going to cannibalize one brand for the other, or that kind of thing. So
yeah, especially if you're making your entire living off of one channel, like that's, you don't want to lose that audience or lose the respect from them, or the trust. It could be fractured just so simplistically in so many nuanced ways on the internet.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense. Here and there you can do it and people probably won't mind, but yeah, you definitely cannot get carried away with doing that. So, but again, I'm also just kind of enjoying like trying to grow like organically.
Yeah, it's a differentiation from the last 7 years.
Oh yeah.
What specifically about finance interests you the most? Is it growing trends? Is it currency? Is it business deals?
So when I was a kid, it was funny because my side hustle, or actually it was my full hustle when I was like 12, was just like going around recycling soda cans, because like in California you can actually recycle those and get some decent money from them. And so we had a park in our neighborhood I would go to, and like get cans out of there, and people would be out there barbecuing, that kind of thing, collect them. My parents from like a softball league, so I'd go around with people like drinking Budweiser and stuff, like, hey, can I have your cans? Like, yeah, sure, kid. Like throwing them in the bag. So that was like how I made money then. When I was a kid, I liked being able to save money. When I was it 13? For my birthday, my dad bought me like 2 shares in this bank, this like local bank, bought me 2 shares of stock in it. So I mean, I was always interested in it from the time I was a kid, learning about compound interest. And I mean, I just found it interesting. I just liked, I guess, the idea that you can put money somewhere and it can keep growing. Unfortunately, when I was in college, like you don't get any of that. And I really unfortunately like lost focus of a lot of that. So, I mean, other than my undergraduate finance class where our professor taught us time value of money, that's really about all the like investment advice you get when you're in college, is only if you're taking a class like that. So, no, I like getting to hear business owners' stories of how they started. I like getting to hear their process. I like getting to hear how some people think about companies and they decide to make their investments. I also, like I said, I did the recent credit card video. I like talking about that because that's one where none of us, I mean, I don't know of anybody who said that when they were a kid, their parents taught them about credit. I mean, you wind up learning, right? It's like, oh, it's just good for emergencies or, something like that. But that's really about all you learn. Because I had a good credit score paying off all my student loan debt, but that's because I paid everything off. And, I made all my payments. I got this good credit score, but like, what if I didn't have all that debt that I paid off? Like, how did I get here? So I'm like, okay, I need to start learning this now, teaching and being able to teach what I can to people, because, there's so many people who just know, I mean, truly next to nothing about finance, about investing. I mean, I think it's only 10% of the people in this country have a Roth IRA that they put money into, which, that's going to grow tax-free. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's one of the few things I can think of right now where it's a great tax advantage that's available to the masses of people, where you don't have to have a business. You don't have to have all these business deductions and write-offs and these kinds of things. Then, as businesses get bigger, they got a whole army of accountants and, people that can help them get every tax advantage they can think of. Like for you, just being the everyday person working their job, like that's a great one. That's why I did a video on that, because I mean, that's a huge opportunity that I think most people don't even know. They don't even know it exists. So
financial literacy is not taught in schools. No. I think it's purposely done, which is unfortunate. But things that receive a negative connotation oftentimes aren't negative in the world of finance, like leverage, right? Leverage can definitely be a positive thing. Could definitely go the other way as well, right. But you can greatly benefit from that. Debt has a very negative stigma, but oftentimes debt can be a good thing.
I used to be, this was part of it too. So I had a couple credit cards that I closed, because I was like all gung ho, Dave Ramsey, cut up your credit cards, get out of debt. Debt is the devil kind of thing, like to that point. And then, I was big on that. And, I guess for that time, I guess you could say it served me well, right? I was getting out all my student loan debt and I paid off over $100,000 of that. So it was good to be out of that. But then, after that, I don't know that, like once you've gotten past that point, I think after that you can start looking at things a bit differently. Mm-hmm. And like you said, financial literacy, it's not taught in school, public or private. I went to private school, wasn't taught there. So it's just school really teaches you to be an employee for someone else. That's really what it teaches you to do. It doesn't teach you how to They'll teach you how to go to your job and make money there. But after that, it's like whatever you do with the money, you're not taught that. So it's really unfortunate that that's the case. But yeah, there's lots of just bad beliefs, I think, around money, because like money doesn't care if you're a good or bad person.
It's true.
Yeah, you run your business, you provide a service that people want. Like the money doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person, if you're a good boss or a bad boss or whatever the case is. So, some people just think money is bad. I don't agree that money in and of itself is bad.
It's all about shaping the perspective around it. Money should be viewed as a tool. At least that's how I view it.
Right.
And money causes a lot of anxiety. I think it's the number one reason that causes divorces in a situation. But financial literacy needs to be built through trust. And that's what I've learned from. If somebody's teaching you about money and you don't trust them, then nothing's going to stick. Whereas it seems like a lot of content creators have kind of taken on this responsibility, or they've realized the need to educate the world that you can be your own boss. You don't have to be employed by anybody. You don't have to rent out your time anymore. I think renting out your time is going to become an antiquated model over the next few decades as a lot of these positions become automated away by robots. And so you need to understand that you can harness your own power, and you can literally live off of just investing or just practicing safe financial literacy.
Right. Well, that's one of the beauties of the technology that we have now. And this is one of the things that actually, when it came to the pandemic and so many people not being able to physically go into their work building, actually helped expedite some of this process, because some of these companies were maybe they were very resistant to letting people work from home. Now they, especially if they're able to continue their production with people working from home, it's like, okay, do we need this big building? Do we need to have all these people driving in here every day? Like, we don't need to do that. And that's one of those things where, like, if you're like a baby boomer, that was what you've always done. You drove into a physical place to work, and that was what you did. So I know, like, in the workplace for like millennials and stuff, that was like one of the frustrations you hear millennials having with, like, baby boomer bosses and that kind of thing. It's like, I don't have to physically be here. I can
should have been an email.
Yeah. Like this should be an email. Like, why do we have to have this meeting with everyone here? We could just email this, or we could, do it over Zoom or whatever the case is. But that's just how it's been done for so long. So when it comes to that technology, I think that's actually helped expedite the whole idea of people being able to work from home, not having to actually live in a big city like they used to, which is one of the reasons why Vegas is growing so much. Because it's like, maybe you have a job in LA and you only got to go there once a month in person for a meeting, and the rest of the work you can do from home. So it's like, why would you pay to live, there? Why would you pay that price, and that kind of thing. So I think that's been that's expedited that change in that process, but also the amount of things available now is crazy. Like, I mean, some people are big. So if we're going to go like the different ways you can make money, right? If some people love to do the whole credit card churning, the whole getting every sign up bonus they can and converting things to cash and that kind of thing. I mean, some banks will give you bonuses if you sign up, leave X amount of money in the account for so long. I mean, you can rent out your car. I mean, whether it's Turo, whether it's hire car. I mean, there's all kinds of different apps where people just pay you to do little side gigs. I mean, pay you to help them move stuff. I mean, there's so much available that, like, it's crazy to think about.
You just have to tap into the internet and really commit. In crypto, this is very known as well. There's people who make literally six figures just collecting airdrops, which is basically just giveaways to free cryptocurrencies. There's accounts that I see where people have made like $50,000 year to date at this recurring, just collecting free crypto airdrops.
Jeez.
But it's like you have to just dive into one of these communities and fully commit. There's people literally making billions of dollars in crypto that are same age as us, that it just doesn't matter. But not even just crypto, just utilizing technology and understanding that the way to which society is trending, because COVID basically just took gasoline and just poured it all over the antiquated infrastructure that society was and said, no more. All the habits are broken. All the habits are broken.
In a lot of ways it did. So I think it's kind of interesting, because now you're getting to the point where even like the youngest baby boomers are retiring. A lot of them are getting on their way out of the workforce at this point. So so things that may have taken another 10 years to come to fruition are coming to fruition much quicker. So, how that's gonna how that's going to bode for the future. It'd be interesting to see the next 5 years.
I'm so bullish on Vegas. I'm sick. That's why I never left. I'm one of the few Vegas locals who actually tapped into the creator economy and decided to build a brand. But when we were talking about remote workers, from all the real estate agents that I've spoken with, it seems like all the remote workers are the ones who are buying up all the real estate in the city.
Well, yeah, because a lot of them don't. They said they don't have to be there physically anymore, or that's a big deal for them because it's like, why pay to live in San Diego or Los Angeles or whatever the case is? People say, well, if you're going to work there, you're still going to pay your state tax, which is true. But like I said, if you have a situation earlier where every other week, once a month, you actually have to go in person for a meeting, monthly meeting or whatever the case is, then live here the other 29 or 30 days of the month. I mean, although our gas is high right now, it's still generally cheaper than Los Angeles or San Diego, that kind of thing, right? The cost of living is lower here. So, I mean, it's still a win for people. You don't have to sit in traffic as much here. It's only one day a month that you're having to go down there and be in traffic versus, 20 plus days a month.
Yeah. The utility that Vegas provides is just so inconsequential. There's no other place that can replicate it. It's 24 hours. Although when I grew up, Walmart and the grocery stores used to be 24/7. Now some of them close at midnight, which pissed me off. I remember being a little college frat boy and rolling up to Walmart at like 2 a.m. to buy liquor, and they're like, "We're closed," and I was like, "Am I being punked right now?" Like, oh,
looking for Ashton Kutcher to come out.
Yeah, like what is this black magic you speak of? This place doesn't close.
What is this word closing? I don't know what this means.
But that's why this city's so awesome. It's in a perfect place geographically to where it's next to LA. It has an international airport. You could travel across the country pretty quickly, like nonstop trips, but it's everyone's secondary home. That's what I've learned. I think it's like 44 or 45 million people visit here a year. That's why that's why the Golden Knights have so many international fans, because everyone's like, oh, I remember that one time in Vegas, or maybe I don't remember, but I want to remember.
I'm pretty sure I was there.
Yeah. And so this city is just going to keep booming and booming. And the reason why it does is for people like yourself who provide a lot of information and context to what's happening within the city, to where they don't have to read these legacy and traditional media. They don't have to watch CNN and Fox. They don't have to, they don't have to read the New York Times. They can literally be authentic with you and see it for themselves.
Yeah. Like, let me watch this 10-minute video and learn what I need to know.
It's YouTube University, man. You could literally learn anything at the grasp of your hand. You just gotta, don't be like me. Don't be closed-minded. Actually, utilize it, understand.
You changed it though.
Yeah, I changed it. It took me a little while, which I'm glad I'm here now and can communicate with you guys. But coming up on the hour, I have one final question for you. Yeah. Same question I ask everybody. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. I have to come back to actually really what we talked about earlier. Like you're saying, it's a place for a lot of people of opportunity. And because, I mean, you think about how I remember seeing the number. This is probably the first year on my channel I did this video where I found numbers of the rankings of all the states and what % of the state population is not born and raised there. And Nevada was by far and away number one. It was 76% of our state's population was not born in Nevada. And it may even be higher now with so much growth here. Florida was the next closest at 65%. So we even had a double-digit lead on the next closest state. So the people come here for a reason. Some people, they may be good reasons, some they may be bad reasons. There's a whole variety of things. Some people come in here and they do amazing, and some people come in here and they get themselves in all kinds of trouble. But I think that's a big component of it, is the fact that it means opportunity to people. That's what it meant to me when I was coming here. I was going from a state that just become the highest income tax in the country, in California, to a state that had zero. When I was coming from a state where, especially in the Bay Area where I was, where gas prices were, I don't remember what they were, but they were high, to here, where it was so much cheaper. And I remember finding out like what the cost of living was in the Las Vegas area, even though Clark County and Santa Clara County had the same population. I mean, we're talking 40 to 60% cheaper to live here. And, that was very appealing for me as somebody who came because I had a whole bunch of debt I wanted to pay off, and I wanted to get out of California anyway. So And and I still liked being out west. I wasn't real big on going to the East Coast or anything like that. I still want to stay in this general area. But I just saw an opportunity. I was like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to jump. I'm going to go, find a job, find a place to live. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it work. And that's one of the things I would say. And that's why some people still ask me, with a lot of changes in Vegas over recent years, they still think it could be a good place to come to. And I still think it is, without a doubt. It definitely is. And that's really probably, I would say, is the biggest thing, because it's given me a great opportunity. Over the years, when I came here, nobody knew who the heck I was. No one knew my name when I first got here. Now over the years, I've been able to help. Comfortably, I'll say hundreds of thousands of people, that have watched, whether they've just watched one video of mine or whether they've watched, 1,000, over the years, whether it's traveling here and saving some money or giving them a good recommendation on a place to eat or thing to do, or people to come in here looking for a neighborhood to live in, and, whatever the case may be. It means opportunity, and I'm glad I've been able to help people with that opportunity.
And that's the most fulfilling part of any entrepreneurial endeavor, building value for others. Where do I send all of the listeners and viewers to learn more about you? Anything notable that you like to mention?
Mostly just the YouTube channels will work. That's really the bread and butter for me. I have Instagram and Twitter and that kind of thing that I use, but really YouTube's the bread and butter. So Jacob's Life in Vegas is the one I've had for years now, the big boy. And then Money Growth Project is the newer one. I'm working from the ground up on that thing.
Follow both of them. Tap into the live stream. They are a lot of fun. I have to say. Jacob, thank you for coming on here. Name twins. We made it through an hour, and I know we will definitely be connected in the future as well. So thank you.
We will, man. Thank you, Jake, for having me.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next time.